Storytime, the most psychotic dude I've ever hooked up with. So his first question was, what's your body count? Naturally, I divided my true number by 5 to give him a much prettier number to look at. Once he was satisfied with my answer, he decided we should talk and try to pursue a relationship. So we start to talk, but he would vocally express to me he didn't like that I lived 30 minutes away because he could not regularly stop by and check in my dorm to make sure I was not sleeping with other people. So I didn't text him for 2 hours because I had to study for an exam, and he goes, well, you're a whore and you probably gave me gonorrhea. You're putting my life and my son's life in danger. Well, an STD is sexually transmitted, so it's concerning I'm putting your son's life in danger, but 2 weeks prior I got a test. Ring, ring. The results are in. I'm clean. So he then proceeds to say, I will tell everyone you love. I'll make a PowerPoint presentation, show it to your college to show everyone how nasty you are. I wasn't concerned, so I blocked him. He then texts me off of his son's phone and goes, I have an infinite amount of resources. Don't block me again. Trying to scare me. Well, I blocked the son. Radio silence. Where's your infinite amount of resources?
Party story time! Okay, so I went to a party and I showed up there super early because I'm literally that person. Anyways, I was talking to the guy throwing the party and I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I don't really want to drink. Yes, I'm literally the lamest person alive. Anyways, he's like, okay, do you want a bottle of vodka? Boy, I just told you I didn't want to drink. And he's like, no, like an empty one you can fill up with water and pretend you're drinking. And I'm like, you're a genius. So I do just that. And I walk around the party drinking out of this bottle of vodka that actually has water in it. People literally thought it was legendary. They thought I was getting so drunk. So basically at this point I was lying to everybody at the party. So anyways, I get thirsty, so I step outside and start chugging this bottle of vodka that's actually water. And I look to my left, and there's this girl literally staring at me.
Okay, I have like a really gross, disgusting story time, so just listen. So like in 7th grade, like girls at my middle school thought it was like trendy and like cute and quirky to like piss your pants, like at school, like do it at school. Like, they would, like, laugh so hard that, like, oops, like, they peed themselves. And, like, would keep it on their butt all day. And then they would, like, ask for, like, their crush's sweatshirt to, like, cover up, like, the pee on their butt just because, like, they're so cute and quirky. And I remember this one girl pissed herself at a choir concert backstage in the choir room, and the whole entire choir room smelled for, like, a day, and there was just a puddle of pee on the seat. And she literally had to go to the bathroom and wet her whole pants so that you couldn't tell that she pissed herself. Like, it got to the point where, like, 2 or 3 girls a day were walking around the school with pee on their butt. And, like, no one said anything. Like, it was cute and trendy. And, like, even the guys jumped on it. They were like, oh my god, like, she peed. Like, what? Like, it's just so, like, unbelievable. But, like, it literally happened, and I don't know why.
Storytime, motherfuckers. My boyfriend throws this party. I'm like, can I bring my best friend? He says, I don't really know her. And then I was like, I'm gonna bring her anyway. A little bit into the party, he's like, I'm gonna go pick up my friend. And I was like, okay. I sat outside. My best friend was inside. I thought she was. I didn't really care what she was doing. I trusted her. He comes back 30 minutes later, comes outside, and everything is fine. He's not suspicious at all. I then sleep over at his house that night. He's in the shower and his phone is blowing up. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? My Snoopy ass looks on his phone, it's this guy Luke, and he doesn't have any friends named Luke. It was constant texts like, you need to break up with her, you can do so much better, blah, blah, blah. And then Luke says, you know she's my best friend, she can't know about this. So I sat there. They've been hooking up our whole relationship. So I tell his mom and I leave. I'm a fucking circus.
This is a crazy story time of when I used to work at Tilly's, so buckle up. This middle-aged mom walks in the store, right? And she just starts walking around the men's section and literally just grabbing everything she sees. I mean, she's not even looking at the sizes. So we thought that was weird, so we went up and asked her if she needs any help, and of course she said no. Then she decides that she wants to try everything on. So I unlocked a room for her, and then I told her that she can only have 7 at a time, and she literally had a million things, and she just ran in, shut the door, and cut me off. So we started to get suspicious, so I started talking over my little headset thingy and telling the people around the store what's going on. We knocked on the door like 3 times asking if she needed help or needed any other sizes, and of course she just said no again. Then she comes barging out and literally runs to the front door and just leaves. So I walk in to see, and there's literally a bloody tampon on the floor. 2 days later, she comes back to the store
Crazy story time about how my mom kidnapped my sister. So my mom and dad split whenever I was really young. And at this time, they were always in and out of court battling for custody over my sister and I. Well, the one day my dad drives my mom downtown to the courthouse because she didn't have a ride. And before she gets out of the car, she's like, "Can I give the girls a hug?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, go ahead." Little background information. I was more of a daddy's girl. My sister was more of a mommy's girl, which is probably the reason why she took her. I was sitting by the window, my sister was sitting in the middle seat. So she gives me a hug. Next thing I know, my sister's seatbelt was unbuckled and my mom was running across the street with her in the middle of downtown. Didn't even look for cars. So my dad got out of the car, ran over, grabbed her, picked both of them up, and walked over to the sidewalk, and my mom was screaming bloody murder. So this guy called the cops, and my dad was trying to show them custody papers because he had full custody. But the cop knew my mom, so he let her take my sister. We got her back, but I didn't see this bitch for like 4 months. Toxic best friend story time. So I had an off and on friendship with this one girl. In my freshman year, we became friends again. And she had this boyfriend named Nicholas. And they literally fought 24/7. And every time she would fight, she would be like, "Can you please fix this for me?" So she would have me add him on Snapchat, fix it, and then block him. And guys, this literally was happening like 5 times a week. And then after she asked me to do that the first few times, I realized she started going through my phone. And when I say my phone, I mean my whole motherfucking phone. A bitch was going through my Snapchats, DMs, text messages, and I didn't know how to confront her because that's just weird. So the one day I was getting ready at her house because we were about to go out, and she was like, "I'm grounded, can I use your phone real quick?" And I was like, "Yeah, just let me Snapchat this last person back." And she goes, "No," and rips the phone out of my hand. And she starts going through my Snapchat right in front of me. And I had a streak with this kid named Nick. She goes up to me and says, "What the fuck is this?" Like for part 2. Story time, the biggest lie I ever got away with as a teenager. So my sister and I were going to spend the weekend at my stepdad's, and I asked my parents if I could bring a friend. My dad said he didn't care, and my stepmom said no. And my parents were really strict. But obviously I did not listen. So I invited my friend, and her parents were also really strict. So we came up with this elaborate plan that I would ask her parents and tell them that it was a surprise for her. And they believed it. So the day comes whenever we're supposed to leave to go up to my stepdad's. So, we get off the bus, walk to my house, and my stepmom was asleep because she worked night shifts. So I was able to sneak my friend through the house to my bedroom. Little did she know she was going to have to hide in the closet. So my stepmom came in and needed to borrow a pair of socks for work. And I was literally guarding the closet with my life. And she goes, "Get away from the closet, you're acting so suspicious. What's in there?" Like for part 2, by the way, Stacy and Candace, if you see this, my bad.
Story time about my manipulative ex-boyfriend. So whenever we first started dating, he was really sweet. We would hang out all the time, and we had such good chemistry. And we were Snapchatting because I lived like a few hours away from him. And he goes, "All my exes have hurt me in the past." Now us women, that makes us think, "Oh, I want to be the girl who doesn't hurt him." And I was like, "Well, how many ex-girlfriends have you had?" He goes, "Like 9. And at that time, I was blinded about how happy I was to be dating him to actually realize that was a red flag. And then this motherfucker says, "So please don't be mad at me if I do something that might hurt you. It's just because I've been hurt so many times." Implying if he were to cheat on me, I shouldn't be mad because he's been hurt so many times. Red motherfucking flag alert, bitch. Like for part 2.
Story time of one of my many embarrassing moments in high school. So my sophomore year, I was talking to this guy, and we had been talking for 4 months, and he didn't want to date me. I didn't know that until one of his friends said, "Oh yeah, he's just using you to do stuff." And I'm surprised he let it drag on for 4 months because I didn't do anything with him. But now looking back at it, he would always ask me to come over when his parents weren't home. So anyways, I really liked him, he broke my heart, and yeah. So the next day I had school, and I had a class with him. And all of his friends were in that class too. And I planned on ignoring everybody and just keeping my headphones in. Well, one of his friends asked me if I was okay. Bad idea. The waterworks started and I started sobbing in class in front of everybody. I felt so bad for him. He just asked if I was okay. And guys, everybody was staring at me. It was so bad I had to be removed from class.
Toxic best friend story time. And no, this is not the same one. I know I have bad choice in best friends. Do not come at me. So a few summers ago, I was single and I was talking to two boys. One that I had been talking to for months, but I didn't know if he liked me because I kind of got more of best friend vibes. And the other one I was talking to for not that long, but he was kind of a douche. So, who did I tell about these two boys? No other than my best friend. Well, this girl took it upon herself to text the guy that I was talking to for months and say, "You're just her backup plan." And she was the type of girl that would talk shit on other girls to guys that they liked to get the guy's attention. So he told me that she said that, and I confronted her about it. She goes, "I just don't think it was right you were doing that to him." Meanwhile, she was talking to this boy that she really liked, but fucking other people. We were not able to bounce back after that.
Story time about how I actually got away with sneaking out. It was the summer before my junior year in high school. So my sister and my friend were sleeping at my house. And I didn't live with my parents at this time. Well, 2 a.m. rolls around and we get a text from our friend. And he goes, "Oh, do you want to come to my party right now?" And we really wanted to go, so we had to come up with this elaborate plan on how we were going to get out of my house and get back in. Because we had to worry about a dog who freaks out every time someone leaves and comes back, motion-censored lights, adults waking up at 4:30 in the morning, and I was on the first floor of the house, thank God. So I had my sister put the dog in the bedroom so that way he wouldn't bark whenever we left. And my sister really took one for the team here. And then I told her whenever they wake up, let the dog back out of the room and lock the door, just in case they came to check in on us. So we called an Uber and bolted out of my house. Like for part 2.
Okay guys, sneaking out part 2. And for all of you saying like, "Oh, why'd you have to sneak out if you weren't living at your parents?" I lived at my grandparents' house and they are strict as hell. Anyways, so we're at the party and we're having a great time, and I look at my phone and I realize that it's 4 o'clock. And they wake up at 4:30 a.m. So we ordered an Uber and we had the guy drop us off down the street. So we're walking down the street and we finally get to my neighbor's house. And we could see all the lights were on in my house. And my sister's been texting me the whole time basically saying, "Oh, they're awake, I hear them, OMG, like you better hurry up." And I'm texting her like, "Get the dog in the room," because he would have barked loud as hell if he saw us. And I forget if it was me or her, but one of us had to pee really bad and peed somewhere. So we're basically on our stomachs crawling back to my house through my yard, so that way none of the motion censored lights come on. And one of them came on, and the windows don't really have curtains, so I could see my path like looking outside the window. Oh, there's gonna be a part 3. Okay, part 3, but for all the new people, guys, stop telling me to post the part 2 because I always post my part 2s. Okay, so the motion censored light comes on, and we literally stop dead in our tracks. Meanwhile, we're literally laying in the grass, like just don't even know what to do. And there's this side door that we were gonna go through. So my sister put the dog in the room and we're just waiting for the techs to run in the house when they're both upstairs. But my pap was looking outside trying to figure out why the light went on. And then I hear him say, "Oh, it must have just been a deer." So my sister finally texts us like 5 minutes later that, they're both upstairs. And I waited so I couldn't see them in the window anymore. And we bolted in the house. And I ran in the bedroom and we both smelled disgusting because we were both laying on the grass outside. When we get in, we lock the door so that way we can change our clothes, act like we're going to sleep, and then unlock the door. And my grandma comes down literally 10 minutes later to check on us. Like if you want more stories on me sneaking out. Story time about how my best friend and I used to get away with hanging out with boys. So my friend and I's parents were really strict, which meant no hanging out with boys, not even if a parent was there. And we would always come up with these elaborate lies to do stuff that we weren't allowed to do. And we were in high school, so we really wanted to go hang out with one of our guy friends. So we came up with this plan where we would tell them that we were going to a football game because it was a Friday, and that an Uber was coming to pick us up. And there really was no Uber, it was actually just our guy friend coming to pick us up. But since my dad didn't let me go in Ubers, we had to go to my best friend's house. And her parents were fine with it because they loved me and thought that I was the most perfect child on earth. So we get in our Uber and we just go to his house and hang out the whole time. I literally don't even know how we got away with this because it was the same exact car every time and the same exact Uber driver every time. Story time about how I got caught skipping school almost every day of my senior year. So our school had just started this new thing where you fill out all your contact information online. And my dad was like, okay, yeah, just fill yours out. And it pretty much was who can pick you up, who can make early dismissals for you, who they can call if you're in trouble. Well, I decided to be a sneaky little bastard and put my boyfriend in for every single one of those contacts. I would start school around 7:30 a.m. and I would go to the nurse's office at like 9 a.m. and she would call and my boyfriend would act like my dad and be like, okay, yeah, just let her drive home. Well, my guidance counselor noticed after about 3 months of me never being at school. So she called the number hoping to speak to my dad. But instead she got my boyfriend. And he just thought it was a random person, so he didn't act like my dad. Because neither of us knew. Like for part 2. Okay, part 2. Okay, so pretty much what happened after that is she called and like she found out that it wasn't my dad. And then she went digging and like she like called my sister to the office and she was like, what's your dad's phone number? And my sister was like, why? Like, don't you guys have it already? And I also put the same numbers for my sisters so that way in case this day came, then you know, it wouldn't look suspicious. Well, I don't know what she threatened my sister with, but she scared the hell out of her, so she gave her my dad's number. And so my sister told me whenever she got home, so I went to school the next day. And it was like a surprise party whenever I walked in the office. The dean was there, the principal was there, and my guidance counselor. So I got in trouble and then they were like, oh, we're calling your dad. So what did I do? I left before they called him. Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid. And I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend. So then she called one of my other best friends and said, no, it actually wasn't an accident. And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2. Extremely toxic best friend part 2. So pretty much her excuse for that was, oh, well, he said that he was gonna leak my nudes if I didn't send him them again. Which was a lie because literally half the school already had her nudes. So then I started talking to this other boy. And he lived like right down the street from her. So she was like, if you want to go to his house, you can. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, yeah, just go tell my mom. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and told her mom where I was going and went over his house. So I walked back to her house and she literally locked me out. Like her mom had to come open the door for me to let me in. And she was like, oh, it's a good thing you came back when you did. Because I was going to drive you home now and tell your dad everything that you did. And she goes, I don't think you guys should be together because you're unexperienced. And she would always tell me how he flirts with her all the time. So after our friendship ended, she goes, I just felt like it was always a competition between me and you.